proverb that says the first to state their case seems right until another comes along and cross-examines them. That's very appropriate when we talk about this recent issue of Democratic state legislators from Texas flying to Illinois. They were the first to state their case, and they said that Republicans were changing the rules in Texas. They were being political, and that's wrong. Well, that's an interesting point. So what's the counter-argument? Well, the first mistake that the Democrats made were flying to Illinois, the most politically gerrymandered, the most partisan state in the country, to make that case. Not real smart on their part. How political and gerrymandered is Illinois? Well, here are the facts, and you decide. Last election, Pritzker got approximately 54% of the vote. In the Harris-Trump election, Harris got about 54% of the vote. So arguably, Illinois is about 54% Democratic, yet they hold 82% of the congressional seats. How can that be possible? Well, it's because in Illinois, Democrats draw their own legislative districts to make sure they're protected and to make sure the voters don't have a say in the election. A few years ago, some legislators, when they were running for office, including the governor, stated and pledged that they would never support politicians drawing their own districts. Yet when they got elected, as the governor said, oops, I was just kidding. Of course we're going to draw our own districts. So for Texas Democrats to come to Illinois, you have to admit wasn't real bright on their part. But now, Governor Newsom and Governor Pritzker are both saying, well, we're going to change our districts as well now. Well, here's the big difference, and this is important to point out. Since the last census was done, Texas has grown by 2.5 million people, while California and Illinois actually have lost population. So totally different scenarios. But these 2.5 million people deserve to have their votes counted. They deserve to be weighted just like every other voter. All Texas is doing is changing their existing legislative boundaries to equalize the population so each district will be the same size and will be represented equally. This does not change the number of congressional seats. That can only happen every 10 years when the census is done. Democrats know that. The media should know that. I think they're just trying to confuse you. And finally, the most ridiculous argument I think that Pritzker and Newsom are making is they're saying publicly that Texas is being political in drawing these new boundaries. But then when they're asked, well, you have the most politically gerrymandered districts in the country. How can you criticize another state? And they imply it's because we're Democrats, it's okay for us to do that, but Republicans should not be allowed to do that. That just doesn't make sense. Bottom line is all Texas is doing, equalizing the size of their districts to deal with the massive population growth that's happened the last 5 years. It adds no congressional seats. In the end, the fix is very simple. I've stated for over 20 years, Illinois should lead by example, change the Constitution, take the power of drawing legislative districts away from the politicians, give it to the voters. If you did that, you would have politicians that would be beholden to the voters and not to other political leaders. That's what you have for now. More to come.